your name is Wounded Viking on YouTube, which I find is a beautiful name and
Thank you.
really beautiful. It's really awesome. I didn't know
Thank
you were so tall, but obviously you look like a Viking to me. You know, the people with the lightest hair color tend to be the Germanic peoples, and obviously the Vikings were all Germanic people. So my wife is also very tall and blonde. She's 6 feet tall, taller than me by 2 inches.
Oh
And
my God.
but she's French, but I think that she has a lot of Germanic influence from her father's side. And actually, I looked at her genes, and she does seem to, although it's harder to research females' father's side genes. But I definitely think, generally speaking, the Proto-Indo-Europeans that were found from the Yamnaya culture, which is sort of in modern Ukraine, that's where the Aryans spread out from. They spread left and right. They spread right to Persia and to India, and they spread left to all of Europe. So those people, they tended to be blue-eyed and brown-haired, brunettes. The people that brought in that blonde look appears to be some people that are now Germanic and Slavic, and but they come from different lineages. It's very interesting because they're basically, some of them are Proto-Indo-European. They're from the R1A paternal haplogroup. And some of my viewers like this kind of stuff, so I just mentioned. The other ones are from the I haplogroup, which are the cousins, actually, of the Jews and the Arabs, who are mostly from the J haplogroup, though not all. So the Jews and the Arabs and the Greeks and the Egyptians are often either E1b, like Hitler was, or they are J's. And their cousins are the I. So the I and J were originally one haplogroup, and they moved out of somewhere around the Balkan region, left. And those, so when you look at Scotland, for example, modern Scotland, and you try to trace Viking immigration into Scotland, which was mostly male, so they used to rape Scottish females. So you would find in the paternal lineages a lot of the I haplogroup, and that's considered a marker for Viking lineage. However, you could be very much have a lot of Viking lineage and not be from the I haplogroup.
Dude, I got a question for you, man, because
Yeah.
it's quite apparent to me that you're super into like lineage and historical facts in terms of the origin of people.
Mm.
I'm sure that you have been you've been following the whole debacle with Nick Cannon in the
Oh yeah,
last.
yeah.
So I just want to ask you. So are you willing to go on the record right now and state that the original Jews were black?
Oh, this is a very interesting subject. So, briefly, let me tell you,
Yeah.
I've encountered this way before Nick Cannon had his recent experience, because I live in California, and there's a movement among African Americans that is across the U.S., but concentrated in California, in which I forgot what they call themselves, the original Hebrew group, something like that. But basically,
They're not the 1%ers. It's not
no,
them.
no, no,
Okay.
no. That's a
All right.
different group.
Gotcha.
5%ers you're talking about.
Right. Right.
1% are biker gangs. There's a 5% people nation,
Right.
folk
I
nation.
think so.
No, these guys are a new group. I mean, I don't know how new it is, but it came to prominence in the last 15 years. And basically, their belief is that they are the original Jews, and that basically their belief is when the Bible refers to Jews, it's actually referring to the African people. And those are who the Jews are, and that the Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews are either mixed or imposters. And this is a belief that coincides with the belief that Jesus was black, African. He was African, of African descent. And I can talk about this without any kind of drama, at all, because basically, so first of all, the appearance of someone being African, looking supposedly African, because there are many kinds of African. There are very light-skinned Africans in the north. Like, for example, in Algeria, you can find blue-eyed Africans.
Sure.
There are many kinds of African groups. So there are some that are used to be called pygmies. They come from a very different ancestral group to the rest of the sub-Saharan Africans that people think about. There are Africans in South Sudan who belong to a different group also. There are Ethiopians. They have a completely different phenotype. Ethiopian men usually have a receding hairline, very sharp nose, darker skin, but angular features. So there's a little different phenotypes, and these don't necessarily correlate or don't necessarily associate strongly with ancestral lineage. They associate with, these things these are polygenic traits. They come from a lot of genes, and they depend on your admixture of your genetic inheritance. But with that, all that said, so there are a lot of kinds of Africans. And unfortunately, my heart goes out to the Americans that suffered from the slave trade. They don't necessarily, some of them do know, by the way. There's some, for example, in the islands of South Carolina that they broke off from the slave trade early. they know their heritage a little bit. They still have some ancestral words, so you can pinpoint where they're from in Africa to some degree. But most of them don't know where they're from. So,
Right.
so for them, there's an impression in the colloquial sense. What I experience on the streets in California when I talk to African Americans is an idea of Africanness is associated with the Bantu look. The Bantu tribes are tribes of Africa that moved. I don't know what time exactly, sometime in the last 10,000 years, they moved out of one region in Africa. I believe it was the Southwest, but I could be wrong. Basically, they came out of Cameroon, I think. And they moved from Cameroon southwards and to the opposite side of the African continent and decimated all of the other populations that were there. So majority of them that we know about were the pygmies. So the pygmies are very short people. They still exist. They're very light skinned. They look a little bit Asian. They have a little bit of an Asian eye fold. And they appear to have decimated them. And these people came to be called the Bantu tribes. They speak Bantu languages. And that's when you think of an African looking person in the West, that's what you're thinking, Bantu. Okay, so the Bantu people are associated strongly with one haplogroup, which is also found in the Gulf of Arabia. It's the E1B1A haplogroup. It's not Hitler. So Hitler is E1B1B. E1B1A is the African side. E1B1B is very common among Greeks, among whatever. It's a cousin sister clan. So this is what's associated with Bantus, and this is not found among Jews not frequently. It's found among Arabs, but very infrequent. So Arabs and Jews are, very related. Sometime I should make a video about it. I have done a lot of research on this. In fact, I published some articles on it. But the point is, Arabs and Jews are very related. They both came, mainly they immigrated 7,000 years ago from a place around Albania. So today you'll find the closest descent to the J haplogroup is in Albania. Anyway, they immigrated there together, sort of, but at some point, these populations, I don't want to get into too much detail. I don't know how much this will bore people, but these populations came to have three main haplogroups. The J haplogroup being J1 and J2, separate ones. J1 mainly found in the arid regions in the desert, and J2 in the fertile regions. So J2, you would find a lot of Mesopotamia, Syria, stuff like that. Both the Arabs and the Jews had founder effects from both of those separate populations. And they also had E1B1B, which is the cousin clan of the Bantus, which Hitler is from. I'm just saying Hitler because Napoleon also, by the way. Napoleon, for those that don't know, also came from this group. So those are some famous people with that haplogroup. Also the Wright brothers that did the flying and all that. Anyway, so it's very rare to find Bantu E1B1A among Jews or among the Israelis currently. You can find it among Arabs, and it is not from the slave trade, which is very interesting. I've really researched that. It seems to be that some of these, you see, everyone in the world, the current theory in population genetics is that everyone in the world, when they left Africa, they stopped in the Arabian Peninsula for a period of time, thousands of years, and then they moved to Europe, and they moved to Asia, East Asia, and so on. So there's a theory that some of these Bantu people stayed in the Middle East, and they eventually were adopted into the Arab groups, but they were never adopted into the Jewish groups. So there's very little evidence of E1B1A being into the Jewish groups. There's very little evidence. Now, so basically, myself having lived in the Middle East for a long time, the Middle East tends to be a region very mixed. We have different ancestries. Most of the people are brown-eyed and brown-skinned. But there are some people that are redheaded, like Jesus was claimed to be redheaded by even the Prophet Muhammad, the Arabic Muslim prophet. He claimed that Jesus was redheaded. There were redheads among the Arabs because the Arabs were very mixed, and the Jews. But there were no people that looked phenotypically Bantu, at least at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, which was 600 years after Jesus Christ. And there are references to people of Bantu features living there, but they're rare. So there's a lot of historical evidence for this. So it's not, but my heart goes out to them because this is a people that are looking for their heritage, and it comes out of pain,
For sure.
So it's not just, some people make fun of them. They say, you guys don't understand that the Middle East is not part of sub-Saharan Africa. It's not about, it's pain, not knowing where you came from and wanting to, that's why the Jamaican people, I'm sorry to talk so much, but if you look at the Jamaican people, they saw Haile Selassie, the emperor of Ethiopia. And they said, there's an emperor that is an aristocrat that is African looking. And they were so shocked by this that they created a religion around him, Rastafari. His name was Ras, which means duke. It was before he became emperor. Tafari, which is his name. Ras comes from the Arabic head. So they called it Rastafari. They made a religion just because it was so inspirational to see an African looking person that is a king. You know?
Wow, that's amazing. I never heard that story. I'm
Yeah,
definitely
that,
going to use that one.